Today's topic is about angles in a triangle. Okay, angles in a triangle, I think is pretty fun, but it's a step-by-step process. Okay, and there's a few things that you have to know and remember as you're doing this if you want to make sure that you want to make it easier, a lot easier on you. Okay, the first rule you have to know is that triangles, three angles in a triangle. Okay, triangles equal 180 degrees, okay? So there's three angles, obviously, and all three angles add up to 180. So for example, right, A, B, and C, okay? So all three angles, if you add them up together, have to equal 180, okay? That's rule number one, and the main rule for all of this is 180 degrees, okay? If you can remember 180 degrees, it'll make things a lot easier, okay? So that's rule number one. Triangles add up to 180 degrees, okay? Rule number two is your angles, okay? When you have supplementary and complementary angles. So, for example, a flat line, okay? A flat line equals 180, okay? So that means if you have something like this, where it's, you have a line, and you have a line coming out like that, this angle here, and you have an angle here. You have two angles, right? Where both these angles, if you add them up, have to equal 180. Okay. So that's your main thing. And then of course, if you have a right angle, angle equals 90. Okay. So these are really your main things. Okay, is 180 degrees. Okay, remember that flat line is 180 degrees. If you have anything coming out here, it's at 180 degrees. Okay, right angle is 90 degrees. Okay, that's their main rules. Okay, so what it's going to give you is going to give you a triangle, and once you find the missing angle. Okay, so first example, let's do we have a triangle. Okay, and let's say this side is 65. This side is 57, and you need to solve for that angle there, okay? So, once again, calculator, okay, here we go. So we know all three sides have to equal 180, okay? Which means that side plus, or angle, that angle plus that angle equals 180, okay? So all you have to do is add up the angles you have, 65 plus 57, and when we do that, 65 plus 57, we get 122, and you bring down everything else, okay? Now from here, once you add the two angles up, you subtract it on each side from 180, and you get 58. And that's it, okay? So once again, three angles on a triangle. When you add up all three angles, it equals 180. So to figure out your missing angle, add the two angles up that you have to get 122, and then subtract that number from your 180 to get your missing angle, okay? Simple. That's basic, okay? Let's try something different. Let's do okay. So what do we know here? Okay, missing side angles right here. Okay, we have 30. We have our little box here. What's the box equal? We know it equals 90 degrees, right? That's a right angle. So set it up. 30 plus 90 plus x equals 180. Add the two angles you have to get 120 and subtract it from 180 to get 60. And that's your missing angle, okay? So add the angles you have, subtract from 180 to get your third angle, okay? Simple as that. Basic, all right? Let's try something a little more. So let's do this. You have a shape like this. This is 137 here. This is 102. And just find this outside angle, okay? So this one looks kind of weird. It's not. All right. So now here we start the step-by-step process, okay? Start with an angle, 137, okay? That's where we're gonna start. So we know that a flat line, okay, a flat line equals 180, right? So 137 here, we have to find the inside angle here, okay? Well, this is 137. That means this angle plus whatever this angle is has to equal 180. So conversely, we take that and we subtract this from 180, okay? So we do that, 180 minus 137, that equals 43, okay? So this angle here, all right, is 43, okay? So now we have this triangle here, right? We know we have two angles, 43 and 102, okay? So if we add those up, plus 102, that equals 145, okay? So that means this angle here, this third angle in here, 145. Okay, now remember, to get our final answer, we take that and subtract it from 180, right? We have the two angles. We subtract it from 180 to get our other middle third angle here, 35, okay? And then, of course, to get our final angle, if it's 35 here, it has to add up with this one to make 180. So all we do here is take our number here, 35, and subtract it. 180 minus 35, okay, I hate myself, equals 145. So our final answer is 145, okay? So, I know, step by step, I know, it's a weird process, but remember, if you can remember, add angles up, subtract from 180, or subtract from 180, that's really what you're doing, okay? If you have two angles, add them up, subtract from 180. If you have one angle, subtract it from 180 to get the other angle, okay? Now, you may have noticed when we did this here, okay? You may have noticed that if you add up these two angles here, we got 145. And we know that's what our answer we got on the outside. So if you add two inside angles here, you can get an outside angle here, okay? Now, if you want to follow through and get the last step, please do so. Subtract this from 180 to get 35, and then subtract that from 180 to get 145, okay? Let's do another one. Okay, so we have 35 here, we have 100 here, we have x here, okay? So here's what we need to figure out. We need to figure out what our angle here is. So let's start down here, 35 degrees. Now, we know, or as a rule, okay, angles that are across from each other, okay? So if you have an angle, if we have two lines, right? Two lines, right? Angles that are across from each other are congruent, means they're the same. So if this is 60 here, this has on the opposite, other angle across from it has to also be 60. Okay, it's vertical angles. Okay, it's a rule. Okay, so angles that are across from each other equal 60. Okay, so knowing this rule here, if it's 35 here, across from it has to also be 35. Okay, they're across from each other, equals the same angle. Okay, now we have a triangle, we have our two angles. Add them up. Oops. Well, add them up. 100 plus 35 equals 135. and then take that and subtract it from 180. So 180 minus 135 equals 45. So our angle here is 45. And then, of course, to get this angle on here, remember, flat line, straight line, okay, means these angles add up to 180. So take our answer, 180, subtract it from 45, and we get 135. Okay. Once again, remember, if you add two angles here, you can get the outside angle immediately, which you did up here. But to finish it out, subtract from 180 to get this angle, and then subtract that from 180 to get your angle there, okay? Yeah, step by step. It's a process, okay? It's not a complicated process. It's just one that can be confusing if you forget the 180 rule, okay? If you remember that all angles add up to 180, or all triangles add up to 180, and your flat line is 180, okay? Remember that, and then you should be okay. All right, let's kind of do a longer one, okay? Okay, so we have 45, we have 60, we have 68, we have 100, and then that's our angle we need to find here. Okay, so a lot going on here, okay? Step by step, okay? Step by step. So here we go. Start up here, 45, okay? 45. So we know on our rules previously, this angle here, if it's 45 here, it has an angle directly across from it, vertical angles here. So it's 45 here, it has to be 45, 45 here, okay? So it's 45 here, 45 here. Now we have a triangle. We have two angles, so we add them up, okay? 60 plus 45 equals 105. And then to get our last one, remember we subtract it. We do 180 minus 105 to get our third angle, 75. Okay, so just to write it out for you, right? 45 plus 60 plus x equals, or plus, whatever equals 180. Add them up to get 105. And then minus 105. X equals 75. Now it's not XX. It's not XX, okay? It's this to go here, okay? Not here, here, okay? So now we have two angles here, 75 and 68, right? Now remember, we have a flat line. Flat line equals 180 degrees. So we take our two angles here, 75, and we add them together, 75 plus 68, and we get 143. Now remember, take that number, subtract it from 180 to get 37. That's our other angle, okay? So remember, all these three have to add up to 180. So if we do that, 75 plus 68 plus 37 equals 180, and that's what we want, okay? We want it to equal 180. All right, getting down. Try another triangle, 37 and 100. We add them up, we get 137, okay, 137. Sorry, 137, and then we subtract that from 180. Oops, 180 minus 137, and we get 43. That's our angle here. And then last step is do 180 minus 1, or minus 1. Oh my gosh. 80 minus 43, and we get 137. That's our ultimate answer, okay? Step by step. Add them up, subtract from 180, or subtract from 180. That's the biggest rules out of all this process, okay? Biggest rule out of this process. Let's do one more. Okay. Sometimes you're gonna see this, where they're gonna throw in some letters for you. 70, 60, 8x plus 2. And you have to figure out what the x is, okay? So once again, we know all three add up to 180. So just set it up, add up to 180. 8x plus 2 plus 70 plus 60 equals 180. We know that, okay? So now add up your like terms. You have 2, 70, and 60. You can't add that because it has an x. So 2, 70, and 60. So bring down your 8x, and then we're gonna do 2 plus 70 plus 60, and that equals 132. Okay, we'll just add them up. Now, two-step equation, okay? 132, it's positive, so we're gonna subtract it from 180. So 180 minus 132, and we get 48. So 8x equals 48. And then last step, divide by 8, and x equals 48 divided by 8, which is 6. So our angle, our x, is 6, okay? So that's really all there is to it, okay? Don't get bogged down in it. It's just step by step. Take it one step at a time, and you will be perfectly okay.